How we doing, everybody? Welcome to the Mash and Drum Whiskey Room. I am Jason C. If you're a subscriber, really glad to have you back again. If it's your first time here looking for the latest in whiskey and bourbon news and reviews, you have found the right channel. So think about hitting that subscribe button below and hit that bell notification so you know when I'm releasing a new video. So after 12 years of nothing but limited editions and one-offs, the newly released Four Roses Small Batch Select is here, and it's joining the small and highly praised permanent collection from Four Roses. It has a lot in common to one of the brand's most coveted bottles ever, and it's today's bourbon review. So according to Four Roses master distiller Brent Elliott, the brand wanted the new expression's flavor profile to mirror that of the amazing 130th anniversary small batch bourbon released just last year, a bottle that earned the title of World's Best Bourbon from the World Whiskey Awards. But thanks to Four Roses' unique approach to recipes, bourbon blending, and appreciation for total transparency, we know this isn't just talk from the distillery. Now, where most distilleries select a mash bill and start distilling, Four Roses reaches into 10 different recipes to make their bourbons. Each of the 10 recipes appears as a 4-letter code that clues you in onto what the stuff actually is. The first letter tells you it's made in Kentucky, the second tells you the mash bill, the third tells you it's straight whiskey, and the fourth tells you the specific yeast strain. So for you guys that want to learn more about what each letter means, I left a link in the description to Four Roses, and they give a really good breakdown about what each letter actually means in the recipe and how they work together. Now, the Small Batch Select's predecessor, the 130th anniversary bottle, featured OBSV, OBSF, OESV, and OESK recipes. Now, to mirror that a bit more, the new Small Batch Select is a blend of 6 Four Roses recipes. All of them were found in the 130th anniversary bottle, and a couple more. Now, both bottles are cut to similar proofs too, with Small Batch Select at 104 and the 130th at 108 proof. That makes Small Batch Select has the highest proof of any of the mainline Four Roses, including the popular Four Roses single barrel. Small Batch Select includes 6 of our recipes and offers truly unique flavor characteristics from our current lineup of bourbons, said Brent Elliott, Four Roses master distiller. It's all new, but at the same time, it's an extension of what we do and what we do well. Beyond the unique flavor profile, we wanted to give something to the consumer that they're really looking for, a non-chill filtered, higher strength bourbon, and that's what they will experience with Four Roses Small Batch Select. All right, guys, so here's a close-up of the brand new bottle from Four Roses. So as I mentioned, this is a non-chill filtered bourbon using a recipe selected by master distiller Brent Elliott. Four Roses has 10 different bourbon recipes, and Small Batch Select is made from 6 of the 10. So this includes OBSV, OBSK, OBSF, OESV, OESK, and OESF. Ugh, it's a mouthful. Each bourbon in the small batch selection will be 6 or 7 years old. This is the first new brand extension for the brand in 12 years. It joins the other permanent releases of Four Roses Bourbon, small batch, and single barrel bottlings. Available as the spring 2019 in Kentucky, Texas, California, New York, and Georgia, with other locations to follow in the future. Now, I paid about $65 for this, but Four Roses said the price point for Small Batch Select will vary by market and retailer, but will be positioned slightly above single barrel. So, let's get into this. I'm super excited. Nice squeaky pop. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this sit for about 20 minutes after the first pour. I want a little bit more of that. Let it open up since this is a brand new bottle. I have not gotten into it yet. I want the flavors to open up. So let's get into it. All right, guys. So like I mentioned, this has been opening up for about 20 minutes or so. I am super excited to try this bottle. I've been waiting for this bottle ever since they announced the release. So, all right, guys. So first, let's go into the color a little bit here. So you can see it's a pretty nice bourbon color. It's got a deep honey characteristic to it, a little hint of amber in there, maybe a little touch of copper in there too. That 104 proof really kind of sticks to the glass really nicely. It's really sticking really well. It's barely dripping down, so I'm already thinking that's going to give a good mouthfeel. So that's what I'm hoping. Here we go. I'm very excited. First time opening this with you guys. Let's get into the nose. Here we go. Well, so right off the bat, I'm getting a lot of chocolate right off the bat. Really nice. There's definitely some rye spice in there. You know, you got some of that OBSK in there too, so that, you know, that has a little bit of that higher rye kick in there. Well, I'm getting apricots. I'm getting some peaches, maybe a little apple in there too. I'm getting a ton of chocolate, man. There's a lot of chocolate in here. It's really enticing. Some caramel, vanillas, obviously, but that chocolate note that's in here is really coming through strong for me. Now, as it opens up a little bit here, you're getting some more of those baking spices coming through. But you're getting it's like chocolate with almonds, and then on top of that, there's a little bit of that fresh fruit character, some of that apricot and that. I would think it smells a little bit like more of an apple peel, all underlying some of that nice rye spice too, which is really strong on the nose as well. Yeah, I mean, this is like, it's so chocolatey. It is very reminiscent of the Four Roses 130th that I reviewed a while back. I'll leave a link to that video here. A little bit of a cinnamon and nutmeg characteristic. A lot of those baking spices coming through too. Yeah, I would imagine as this keeps opening up, all the different recipes that are within this bottle, all 6 different ones, are really going to allow some really nice flavors in here. Yeah, just chocolate, fruit characteristic, rye spice, apricot, peach, apple, cinnamon, I mean, everything you really love in a bourbon is really kind of in this glass, and I'm already getting on the nose. So I can't wait anymore. Let's go in for the first taste. Here we go. Cheers. Wow. Man. First time that hits the palate, that is really good. I could feel this clinging to my palate the first time it hit. And the flavors, I let it swirl around on my palate a little bit, and the flavors were already kind of bursting in there. That was a really nice first sip. Trying to pull some flavors, but I'm getting that chocolate note automatically on the first sip. Let's go for another one. Let's see what we get here. Cheers. Vanilla, caramel, that chocolate character. I keep saying it, but it's there. It's very strong for me. I'm getting a really nice chocolate characteristic. But then those fruity flavors are starting to come through too. The apricot, the hint of maybe a peach or an apple is in there. Really clinging. It's very creamy, very velvety on the mouthfeel. And the finish on this, we'll get into the finish. Let me get into a third sip first. Here we go. Cheers. So, yeah, I mean, wow. The first burst that I'm getting here is all vanilla, caramel, and then chocolate. And then the chocolate kind of goes away, and then it opens up to these kind of fruity flavors. The peach, the apple, a little bit of an apricot characteristic there. Then you get a kind of a burst of a baking spice, but then the finish on it being some higher rye bourbons in here, it's providing this mintiness, almost like a spearmint flavor. When you couple that with the chocolate note, it's almost like a York peppermint patty a little bit on the very end of the finish. Really unique. All right, let's go for another sip here. Here we go. Even though the flavors now are starting to level out a little bit here, the mouthfeel on this, the coating of it, it's velvety smooth. It's just sticking to the palate so nicely. The fruit flavors are still there. That peppery spice, that spearmint note right on the end, it just lingers and it just hangs out there, just inviting you to take more and more sips here. I'm still getting that nice chocolatey characteristic, but now it's fading a little bit and it's opening itself up more to more traditional bourbon flavors. Deep, dark, rich caramels, vanillas, some brown sugars in there. There's a lot to be found in this bourbon. I think it holds a lot for everyone flavor-wise. Let's go in for one last sip and talk about the whole experience here. Cheers. Whoa, so that last sip I just took might have been my favorite sip. Right at the front, I got this really nice big burst of a rye spice, that spearmint. Then that kind of leveled out, and then I was getting all my, all those favorite bourbon flavors that I love. The vanillas, the caramels, the brown sugars. And then that kind of turns into peaches, apples. It gets a little bit fruity, and then on the end, you still get that chocolate kick. And then the finish on it. The finish is, I would say medium to long. At 104 proof, it really comes in nicely, really warms you up, but it's not overpowering. I think there's maybe a little bit of a burn initially, but I think what you're going to feel mostly as you keep sipping on this is a really nice burst of rye spice. And it comes through in cinnamon, it comes through a little bit of a chocolate character, maybe a spearmint. Comes through in many different ways as you keep sipping on it. Yeah, this bottle is reminding me a lot of the 130th anniversary that I reviewed too. A lot of the similar flavor characteristics there with the apricots, the peaches, the rye spice, but I'm really enjoying that chocolatey note to it and the burst of flavor from the front all the way to the end of the sip. It's a very impressive bourbon and a very, very welcome addition to the Four Roses lineup. All right, guys, so what I want to do real quick is compare this to the regular small batch real quick. Just to get an idea, being this is the small batch, this is the small batch select. This comes in at only 90 proof. I mean, there's going to be a big difference here flavor-wise. But, Four Roses uses 2 different mash bills and 5 different yeast strains to make this. Of those recipes, the 4 are blended together to make small batch. So we have OBSK, OESK, OBSO, and OESO all mixed into the Four Roses small batch, the regular one. All right, so let's compare the noses real quick here. Yeah, this one is almost like bubblegum on the nose. It's got this really bright for like juicy fruit bubblegum. That's what I compare it to whenever I smell this. There is some rye spice to there, but it's very sweet on the nose. And then the nose on this, it's just so rich. It's all those beautiful, deep, dark, rich flavors. You get some nice oak in there too. The oakiness and that spice on the nose here is just really exceptional. Yeah, this one is just bright. It's fruity. A little bit of a rye spice here. This is just deep, dark, rich oak, caramels, some fruity characteristic. And my favorite note that I'm getting here is that chocolate note. All right, let's compare on the palate here. Here we go. Cheers. Four Roses Small Batch is just such a solid bourbon. It's got so many good flavors here, but it's bright, it's fruity, it's got a little bit of that spice kick. It's pretty mouth coating, but leaves probably more of a short to medium finish. Go for one more sip here. Yeah, but even on the second sip of that, one thing I love about Four Roses is, you get big, bold flavors and they tend to stick around. You very rarely get kind of a flat experience with Four Roses, which is what I think people really love about Four Roses. So, all right, let's compare it to the new Four Roses Small Batch Select. I mean, the proof on it, the mouthfeel, the velvety mouthfeel to it, the rye spice on the front, and then how it just turns sweet and velvety and then chocolatey, and then on the finish, and then it just goes back to a spearmint and rye spice again. This is such a beautiful drinking experience for a bottle of bourbon. I'm absolutely loving this. It's definitely well ahead of the regular small batch. So if you're a fan of the small batch, you're going to absolutely go crazy for this bottle. All right, guys, so Four Roses Small Batch Select. As you can tell, I'm really loving this bourbon. I think what Brent Elliott did here, intermingling those 6 to 7-year-old bourbons with different flavor profiles together, really did an amazing job. It's non-chill filtered. It's 104 proof. I mean, it's really everything you want in a bourbon if you're a bourbon fan. It's got big, bold flavors. It's got all the right notes that you're looking for. And I really think this is one of those bottles that's just kind of evolve over time and probably get better as it gets more air and you sit down on it. Now, one other thing that I think Four Roses really nailed was the price point. Now, this was $65 in the Four Roses gift shop on release day. If it stays that way, we did hear there could be some variable pricing in market to market, and that's to be expected. But we also learned that it's supposed to be priced just above the Four Roses Single Barrel, which could come in about $40 to $45, maybe $50 in some places. If it stays at that $60 to $65, maybe $70 range, I still think it's an absolute great bourbon at that price point. Being a 6 to 7-year-old bourbon, 104 proof, non-chill filtered, it hits all those really important points that bourbon lovers, really look out for. But I also think that there are bourbons now that come out that are, 12 years old, that are over $100 that aren't really even nearly this good. All right, guys. Well, thanks again for watching the Mash and Drum Whiskey Room for this review of the brand new Four Roses Small Batch Select Bourbon. Hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe button below and please hit that like button. If you haven't yet, find me on Instagram and also find me on Twitter. Let me know down in the comments or let me know on social media if you've had this bottle yet, what you think of it. If you're as excited about it as I am. And as I always say, it is not about the whiskey, it is the people you share it with. So cheers everyone, and I'm gonna have some more small batch select. Cheers.